Atlanta is a show that ran on the FX network from 2016 to 2022 and was created by Donald Glover. It follows Earn, who becomes the manager for his cousin, a rapper named Paperboy. The show is a comedy with some surreal elements. As the seasons progressed, however, it expanded and began to tell stories distant from its initial concept. This is especially true in the third season, when most of the cast goes to Europe. For now, however, we'll be focusing on episode 6 from the second season, titled Teddy Perkins. In it, Darius, friend to Paperboy and generally a fairly affable stoner, visits a rundown mansion looking to pick up a piano with rainbow-colored keys. While there, he meets its owner, the titular Teddy Perkins, and things take a sinister tone. The episode was shown in a fairly unique way. While most episodes of the show were 22 minutes, this went for 34 and included no commercial breaks in its premiere, although there are several intricate titles that call for act breaks. The main antagonist, Teddy, was played by Donald Glover in extensive makeup. While on set, he was referred to only as Teddy, and his real identity was kept secret from Derek Haywood, who played Teddy's brother. According to the director, Hiro Murai, his appearance was supposed to be doll-like and uncanny. Everything from the way he moved to the way he spoke was accentuated to be just off from how a real person would behave. He said that this feeling persisted even on set, as there was a general sense of unease because the cast and crew didn't know how to behave around him. It seemed like this is the one case of method acting where it really worked, creating an episode that is as disturbing as any horror film. There are a variety of inspirations that are plain in this episode. The most obvious is The Shining, which cinematographer Kristen Springer cites as a large influence. This includes not only how the episode is shot, but the layout of the mansion, which was a physical location in Atlanta. Throughout the episode were shown a number of different rooms, but there were equally as many we don't see, closed doors implying a magnitude of space that helps build the feeling of being trapped, a theme that is also used in some other episodes of the season. There are twisted hallways, an old elevator takes Darius to the wrong floor, and a general sense that even after leaving the house, its tendrils are still reaching out. It may not be as directly malevolent as the Overlook, but there's certainly a character to the building. Other horror references including a general plot outline similar to both Tourist Trap and The House of Wax, and one of the very first shops seemed to be a reference to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, as Kirk opens a door that's very similar to the one that Darius steps through. There are also the obvious real-life inspirations, with Michael Jackson being the most transparent, a young singer pushed into show business by an abusive father who has a skin condition that eventually causes him to have white skin, talk in a falsetto voice, and be generally creepy. Stephanie Robinson, one of the writers in Atlanta, said there were undeniably allusions to Michael, but the episode was intended to be broader commentary on the entertainment industry and how it forces people into specific niches, changing not for their art, but through outside influences, and also what the pursuit of greatness can do. As for the episode itself, it starts out like a fairly routine Atlanta episode. Darius finds himself in a convenience store, which is lacking in dehydrated fruit. At the cash register, he notices a hat with a Confederate flag and the term Southern Made. He buys the hat and a red marker, changing it to You Mad. While at first this seems like the standard racial commentary that pervades the rest of the show, there is something deeper as well. Teddy himself was Southern Made, brought up with traditional values, rules, and punishments. He had to practice on the piano for hours or be beaten. Despite the harshness of his upbringing, he talks of it fondly, claiming that it turned him into a man that he would become. His abuse forced him to rationalize it in his head, believing that the punishments had to be for something, otherwise they were just trauma. Darius arrives at the gate bordering the perimeter of Teddy's house and is let in. However, once he actually gets to the front door, he's forced to intrude, to take his own initiative to reach past the threshold. When he does so, we get the introduction of Teddy, although it's dark enough it could be seen like an editing trick. He's there the whole time Darius is looking around, but cast in shadow, so when he finally steps into the light, it seems like magic. Again, this is showing the horror roots, and already creates a deep sense of unease. The first thing he says is not an explanation or a greeting, but, "Was that Mr. Wonder?" asking about the music that was playing in Darius' car when he was buzzed in. Teddy's whole life has been focused around music, so it makes sense his introduction to the audience is based around this. All of his movements are like a malfunctioning animatronic, mimicking the same kinds of things that humans do without understanding the exact mechanics. Similarly, his interactions with Darius are things that resemble what normal people do, but not quite in sync. He asks if Darius would like a glass of water, then speaks into an intercom-looking device, asking for it. Some time passes, and Darius comments that the butler is slow, but it's then revealed that they are alone, and Teddy was recording a reminder for himself. While playing back the reminder, there is another message. Wash your hands, immediately. While this never gets a full explanation, it further sets up the desolate and isolated atmosphere. Teddy has no one to talk to, so records thoughts for himself to play back later. While it's eventually revealed that he has a brother, their antagonistic relationship further isolates the pair. Then there's the ostrich egg, for some gross-out food horror. Teddy mentions it's called an owl's casket. As far as I can tell, the term was made up for the show, or possibly created by Teddy himself. These kinds of eggs were traditionally eaten by royalty, and it's a sign of his wealth that he casually eats one for breakfast. While he smashes it open with a hammer and stuff oozes out, he barely pecks away at the enormous egg, eating very little, again a sign of opulence. After a brief discussion about the piano and music, Teddy leaves to get Darius his glass of water. Darius stares at the half-eaten egg for half a minute, then wanders off into the act break. We see that Teddy is watching him on a huge bank of monitors, pointing towards his paranoia or need for control. Eventually Darius descends further into the house, which seems more maze-like as it progresses. Upstairs he hears music, and upon opening the door he finds Teddy, extremely suspicious. The idea is then introduced that the brother that he has mentioned, Benny, may not actually exist. The episode then takes a break from the tension, as Darius goes outside and calls his friends, Paperboy and Ern. They have a brief discussion about how drug deals normally go down, and eventually Darius decides to stay, to be direct about what he wants, because the piano with colored keys is worth a little trouble. There is then another act break, and Teddy takes Darius's picture with an old school camera, likely another reference to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The pair then visit Teddy's shrine to his father, in the creepiest room of the mansion. The windows and doors are completely covered with newspaper, to allow for complete and total darkness, aside from the spotlight on the mannequin. It really shows how his entire life has been dominated by his father, and that's never going to stop. Teddy mentions a number of other notoriously abusive fathers, including Joe Jackson, Tiger Woods' father, Serena Williams' father, and oddly enough Emilio Estevez's father from The Breakfast Club. He describes them all as great, as he has internalized pressure and punishment into positive attributes. Seems like he would get along great with J.K. Simmons and Whiplash. While they're signing documents for the piano, Teddy lets down his facade for a moment, when Darius says he can imagine how hard it is. Teddy screams at him, letting out a shrill shriek. While Teddy was never normal, the odd moments reveal that beneath the mask is bubbling anger. The house becoming a museum is a parallel to his own mental state, as he is unable to accept the actual emotions from his past, anger, sadness, grief, and instead puts up a shield. But after years it is cracked, just like the giant ostrich egg, and what is left is the shell of a broken man. While Darius takes the piano away, the elevator malfunctions and he's trapped in the basement briefly, where he runs into Benny, or potentially Teddy in disguise. Benny only writes on a chalkboard, and requests Darius to get a gun from the attic to help kill Teddy. Darius says he'll do it, but first he wants to get the piano. Surprisingly enough, this almost works. He gets the piano outside, but is blocked in by Teddy's car. After he ventures upstairs, we see firsthand how bad Teddy's father was. Unfortunately, that doesn't stop Teddy from enacting his plan, as he wants it to appear that Darius was a home invader, killed his brother, and he was forced to take justice into his own hands. They have a long discussion about sacrifice, how some are necessary for greatness, again reiterating Teddy's backstory. Eventually, however, it's revealed that Benny survived Teddy's attempts to kill him, and he blows Teddy away before finishing himself off. Darius makes it out okay, but when the cops arrive, they take away the bodies and the piano, as it's been covered with blood from the two men, making the whole thing a Shaggy Dog story. At most, Darius gains some new appreciation for his life, although we don't see a huge change after this episode. In many ways, it aligns with other Atlanta episodes, however, and that it's simply one surreal adventure in life without a specific message. Obviously, there are themes discussed about sacrifice, the quest for greatness, and the cyclical nature of trauma, but ultimately this is not a fable or a parable. It leaves it up to the viewer to interpret. Atlanta has many strong episodes, but this is certainly one of the most memorable of them all, and in my opinion, the best. It masterfully blends horror, comedy, and commentary, while allowing enough space for reflections and moments of beauty. It allows the viewer to draw their own conclusions, and the unique structure allowed for something truly special. That's all for today. I hope you've enjoyed this review. Comment below about your opinions of the episode or the show, and be well.